Good evening, attendees. You are in for a real treat tonight. We have a great presentation on the top 10 Chiefs Commandments. I'm John Buckman. I'm the education coordinator for the Volunteer and Combination Officers section. We have a couple little housekeeping things before we turn it over to Chris. We are using voice over IP technology through your computer speakers or headset. Please make sure they are turned on and the volume is turned off. Your microphones have all been muted. If you have technical difficulties, please email webinars@ifc.org or via the chat function on the webinar screen for you. Come on, I just got to hit the next button. All right, then at the end of the presentation, the questions and answer handouts question and answers will be available. If you have a question and answer as the presentation is going on, we encourage you to go to the chat button on the lower right of your screen and ask the question, and we'll hold those to the end unless there's some question that really is like critical, like, oh, I need to break into Chris and stop him. But we want your comments and we want your questions. So please submit those to us. And then we will get you the handouts. They will be provided to you in the links that are done after the presentation. You're going to get an email from us along with a survey. All right. What's the VCOS been doing? I hope you all understand the Volunteer and Combination Officer section has been in business since 1994. We have also just changed. We're changing our marketing. We're changing our branding. We're trying to be more visible. We're trying to do a little better job at communicating. So we've just recently released, it's Symposium in the Sun in November, the chaplain guide for local fire departments. You can find that on the VCOS website. And if you're looking to start a chaplain program, this is a great guide on how to do it, what kinds of chaplain programs you can have. We're looking at developing a brand for the VCOS. And you may notice that we have the VCOS logo has been changed just a little bit, and we're talking about critical thinkers. Obviously, a goal of any association is to increase membership. And so we're looking at how do we increase membership. We have been stagnant for a few years on where we are on our membership level. We've been about 2,400 for many years. So we're looking at how do we increase membership. We do that by increasing value and make people want to join because we give them value for their investment. Symposium in the Sun 2023. We're planning it right now. We're looking at speakers. We've had Symposium in the Sun for 25 years, and it's been sold out for the last 8 years. If you're thinking about attending Symposium in the Sun, when registration opens, don't delay. Don't wait, because you know what? You may not get a seat. We shut registration off at 530 people, and so we encourage you to register early and register quick. The other thing is, the quicker you register, the quicker you get a hotel room so that you can stay at the hotel, the Hilton Hotel, where the conference is headquartered. So look at what are we doing for increased communications. We are looking at updating our ribbon reports, increasing the number of newsletters we send out, increasing our presence on social media, and additional webinars. We're excited to know this is our this webinar tonight has 197 people who registered to attend. We're not sure how many will actually show up, but it is going to be recorded so they can look at it later. So we are excited about the number of people who are signing up. And then we're going to look at developing a critical thinking boot camp for chief officers that will be delivered sometime in 2023, at least the second quarter. It will not be in the first quarter of 2023, but that'll be an online training program designed to help officers, new and aspiring officers, to be better leaders. And then finally, we are going to look at how we market our course deliveries. The VCOS has done education programs for several years, and so we're looking at how do we get the word out so that you will want to host our courses and we get attendees to show up as well. So the presentation tonight is the top 10 Chiefs Commandments, and we're going to get right into it here in just a second. Our presenter tonight is Chief Chris Barron. I have known him for many years. I've heard him do multiple presentations. He is one of those guys, one of those chiefs who's been there, done that. from a volunteer chief to a paid fire chief to an executive director of a large state association. He's been there, done that. He's received multiple awards from a variety of organizations, and he serves on an NFPA technical committee called 1720. So with that, Chris, it's all yours.
Great. Thanks, Chief Buckman. Always good to talk to you and hear from you. It's wonderful to have known you for so long and actually be a recipient of your leadership award that was named after you. So looking forward to this evening, everybody. This is a topic that I have been mulling over for years. And first off, as Chief said, I am a chief of a all-paid fire department now. I was a chief of a combination department and chief of a volunteer department before that. For 32 years now, 22 years as chief and 32 years in the fire service. Now, this is a map of Travis County, Texas, otherwise known as Austin, Texas area. All the little black dots are fire stations. We have so many fire stations around us, and you're thinking, well, where's Manchaca? Well, first off, the pronunciation by the locals here is Manchac, and so we'll help you out there if you ever visit our area and come to Manchac, Texas. But down here in the lower corner of the county is little Station 501 and all of our territory here in the kind of the pink. As you can see, numerous fire stations, Austin fire stations around us. We have a multi-county auto aid response system in place that helps Mr. and Mrs. Smith out with the best possible service and the quickest possible service that we can provide to them. So the class topic, first off, why this class? As several chiefs on here from Texas, especially the Harris County area, might recognize this individual is because we have seen over and over chiefs getting in trouble for doing stupid things, for doing bad decisions, for not having the basic training needed for a commanding officer. And we might even have chiefs that are still out there that may be even on this webinar that just don't have ethical values or not instilled ethical values in them yet. Or maybe folks that just got elected as a chief, and this might be one of you out there, and you just don't know the rules of how to properly administer an organization. My background is I've got a bachelor's and master's degree in business administration, and then this past year I went and finished up my associate's degree in fire technology, along with finishing my master firefighter, master fire investigator certification. So even though I've had college degrees for a long time, I fully believe in you're always learning. You should continue to put goals in place so that you can achieve those goals and reach them at some point in time. So here's our agenda for this evening, and I hope that we will be able to cover all these topics in a timely manner. First off, we should all know, regardless of what position you're in with your organization or how long you've been there, that the leader of the organization will generally set the tone for the rest. And you want to follow that leader. We always want to look up to that leader for guidance and for just someone to lean on in case we need to make executive decisions that sometimes are not fun to make, especially when it comes to HR issues. Those priorities of those leaders could be for themselves. Maybe they're looking for priorities just to better themselves rather than their department, and maybe they're not taking care of their own within the organization. Maybe their leadership style is one of dictation rather than allowing the members to make some decisions that would better the organization. And sometimes those dictatorship type of leadership styles will oftentimes run away members, and that's not a good thing to have. So we're going to touch on what I'm calling the 10 commandments of leadership. And I have kind of put these together over the years. As Chief Buckman said, I was also an executive director for the Texas Firefighter Association. We represented 23,000 firefighters across Texas. I was well involved with the responses to Hurricane Harvey, the West Texas firefighter explosion that happened there that killed so many firefighters. And so there are a lot of different things that we've learned over the years that I wanted to make sure that my brothers and sisters in the fire service also can help learn from. And with the right mentality and the right attitude, I think you all can be successful leaders when it comes to leading your organization. So let's jump right in. First off, commandment number one, customer service is number one. And that is customer service to our internal customers, to our external customers, whatever it might be. If you are not making your fire station environment a place of happiness, a place where people want to come and work or volunteer at, you're not doing yourself justice. If you're not making your service to your community number one, and you're putting yourself before your community, oftentimes you're going to find out and fall flat on your face later on in life when you lose your job due to not doing what's necessary for the community needs. You've got to be an advocate for improved services and an advocate for health and safety for your firefighters and the well-being of your community. Something just as simple as, like this past weekend, we had Pancakes with Santa for our community, in which we cooked pancakes for the local community. We had Santa there. We had, kiddos being able to take their pictures with the Santa on a fire truck. And those little things go a long way. But during that event, we were able to do fire extinguisher training and also pass out smoke alarms with the successful completion of the fire extinguisher training. And that goes a long way to helping our community be a better place. We should always want to make our customers' day better. And, we get there, sometimes they're in their worst nightmare. Their house might be on fire. Their kid might have a broken leg, or like last weekend, we had a kid that had severe facial trauma, and we are there to make their day better and do our best service possible. So, oftentimes our customers are, distraught, and we have to make sure that as our firefighters go out there and as commanding officers, we're going to do what we can to make their day better. Oftentimes we get complaints from our customers that, why are you leaving the lights on? Or why is this truck sitting out in front running? You have to be prepared as a leader to be able to explain that, truck checks are important to the organization and properly and timely response to the community. So you have to be able to respond to those customers in a timely manner and be able to address their issues. I often say to our firefighters, we want to treat others better than we expect to be treated. So whether that is like we did the other day, take a victim's car and go get it filled with fuel and then leave it in our parking lot for them to pick up at a later time. Those little things go a long way to make a great impression for our community and our customers. So who are our customers? We should identify that not only do we have internal customers, being our firefighters, our officers, our command staff, our support staff, our board members. They are internal customers. They're the ones that kind of write the checks. They're the ones that also, give us tax funds to be able to afford things. But we also have our external customers, and that might be Mr. and Mrs. Smith, council members, county commissioners, and friends and neighbors of the fire service, so to speak. So all of these folks are our customers, and we all have to make sure that we can try and touch every single one of them. Example is in this picture, we have a national night out event. We have a mayor here in the picture. We have our sheriff officers in there. We have community leaders, an ESD commissioner, and firefighters. So we try and touch everyone and identify those customers as people we serve. So are we keeping and making our customers happy? Do you and your organization, do you follow up any type of surveys? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a formal survey, but as you may or may not know, you can go to SurveyMonkey and create a simple survey for free. And you can send that out to your constituents. We use that oftentimes to poll our firefighters for Firefighter of the Year nominations. It's anonymous, but we also get to those responses from our firefighters that don't necessarily want to put their name affiliated with a nomination, but have we ever reached out to our customers to figure out, are we doing our best service we can? And are we following up? Our first bullet point here is human asset is our number one asset. We should all recognize and understand that fire trucks are just not going to drive themselves to an incident scene without firefighters on board. If we are not taking care of our firefighters, whether volunteer or paid, we're going to have an unhappy environment. We're going to have calls that are unanswered. We're going to have distraught employees. So we've got to make sure that our firefighters, paid or volunteer, are included in that budget, have a line item in that budget for recruitment and retention needs and items, but also are we incentivizing our firefighters to respond? Are we providing incentives for them or benefits, even if they're a volunteer to want to come to the station or want to go to a call? And we got to make sure that our budget reflects that. So many times we kind of forget that. We want to make sure there's fuel in the truck. We want to make sure that there's insurance and there's budget items for communications. But oftentimes we forget about the most important asset, and that's our human resources. Are you ever performing climate surveys for your firefighters in your department? Are you getting a feel of what's really going on behind the scenes? Have you ever wondered maybe, hey, am I really liked at this fire station? Do the firefighters support me and my efforts? Well, you don't know until you take a climate survey to figure out what is going on. Oftentimes we can just bring a membership together just to say, hey, look, we don't have a specific topic in mind to talk about, but we want to make sure we cover all topics that might be pressing or might be brewing in the background that we need to address. And so we want to figure out what's our general member state of being. Being in a paid fire department now, we oftentimes see where paid firefighters want to make sure they're getting equal and equitable pay raises and such benefits. And we need to make sure we listen to their wants and needs. And then if it's within our budget and within the commissioner's budget, that we try and address those needs and try and address those wants so that they stick around. As we all know, it's so much easier to retain somebody rather than to recruit a new member, because we've already invested time, efforts, and money into new members that are already within our organization rather than try and seek new members. So many times I come across fire departments when I speak and they don't even have an EAP program in place for their volunteers. Even times EAP program, employee assistance program for their paid members is sometimes non-existent. And I don't know about you, but if you've been in the fire service enough, you've seen some bad stuff. And you remember those bad times where you've seen some stuff you really don't want to see, or you didn't want to see, and you just had to see because that was your job, that was your duty. But for a lot of our firefighters these days that are committing suicide, they're not getting the help they need. They don't have an EAP program. Now we have some crisis hotlines through the National Volunteer Fire Council for firefighter suicide prevention. And we have numbers that we can present to our firefighters to reach out to fellow firefighters to help them out in times of need. So we got to make sure we're taking care of our firefighters and internal customers, and that's really key. Are you training your firefighters in the non-formal training? So when you get a new firefighter on board with your organization, they've been through the academy, they went to trainingdivision.com, or they went to your local state fire academy, and they know how to throw a ladder, they know how to pull a nozzle, they know how to do a rescue. But do they really know what's going on and what needs to be done at the fire station? Do they not know that, showing up late or right on time is really showing up late? We often said if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. So, do they know that? And do they know that rank usually equals respect? Now, in some cases, rank doesn't necessarily equal respect because the chief officer has not earned that respect or has done things to diminish their respect. So typically what we see, though, is rank equals respect, and those firefighters should respect those individuals of rank: firefighter, engineer, lieutenant, captain, and so on and so forth. And then do we also tell them or explain to them what the difference is between firehouse humor and then firehouse harassment? So many times we've seen where firefighters will push the envelope of humor in the organization and humor in the fire station, and ultimately it turns out to be harassment. And then next thing you know, you have a lawsuit on your hands. So has that been explained, and is it in the SOG, the difference between harassment and humor? And then lastly, is your fire station firehouse atmosphere one of wanting to be there? Or do your firefighters not want to come to the fire station because they know they're going to get ridiculed, joked on, picked on, bullied, or otherwise? So what is the atmosphere of your fire station? Is it one of which where when you walk in the door, it's nothing but negative, negative, negative? Or is it one of which where it's happy? It's like, hey guys, what are we going to do today? Let's go training. Let's go do some smoke alarm programs for the community or whatever it might be. But what's the atmosphere? I put this book down here on this slide called Station Ready Rookie. And it was written by a couple of firefighters out of McKinney, Texas. It explains a lot of the informal firehouse things that firefighters should be aware of, i.e., hey, you're going to have to clean toilet bowls. You're going to be expected to cook sometimes. You're going to be expected to bring donuts to the station when it's somebody's birthday, or bring ice cream when one of your firefighters ends up on the news. So this book has gone a long way to help our firefighters understand the non-formal things that a firehouse is known for. We give this to all of our new personnel when they come on board with our organization. And it has gone a long way to help explain the informal things that go on with the firehouse. With that fire station atmosphere, are we promoting one of safety and health and safety? Are you telling your firefighters to go work out, but not giving them a gym to work out at, or not giving them equipment to work out at? We recently went through and built a huge building, and half of it is the workout gym. And we bought new equipment. We even recently bought some cool new speakers that blink and have a lot of bass to it, and the firefighters enjoy that when they're out there working out. But we want to make sure they have the tools necessary to make their workout enjoyable and encourage them to come in and work out. We even have offered it to our firefighters' families. Hey, look, if you want to come up here when your loved one is here or some other time, you are welcome to use our gym. And that has gone a long way to help retain our members in our organization. So moving on, customer service is still number one, and we're still talking about our internal customers. What are we doing to keep those customers outside of our organization happy? Have you, as a chief, or maybe you will in the future, get a phone call today from a customer that says, hey, look, your crew was just over here. I was not pleased with what they did or the lack of actions. Not a phone call to receive, especially when you find out it's happened multiple times to an officer of your organization that has not put customer service number one. We had an officer that basically had that attitude, didn't have customer service as number one, ultimately lost his job because his attitude was rolling over into his firefighters. And we had received numerous complaints from our customers, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, about his attitude and lack of actions for their needs. So oftentimes we think no news is good news. However, sometimes you'll get those phone calls in which, there is bad news out there and you got to do something about it. It's important to remember, though, when those calls come in, that you follow up with that customer, Mr. or Mrs. Smith, or both of them, explain that the situation was handled, that you did a proper investigation, that you interviewed other firefighters that were on the scene. But it's really important. It goes a long way to make sure that customer understands the problem has been addressed and hopefully will never happen again. And now, I don't know about you, but when we get kudos from our customers, we have to make sure that not only it is portrayed to our commissioners and our bosses, but also to the staff that is that got the kudos, right? So we need to make sure we promote those kudos to our firefighters. That good job, well done. Recognize them at award banquets. Do whatever you need to do to make sure that they get a pat on their back, and those things go a long way. So take a minute here, write down now or write down later. Look up your fire department on Google and see what type of rating you have. Take a look at the stars. Is it a 4-star? Is it a 5-star? Is it a 2-star? Take a look at your Google rating and see what type of comments have been made from the public about it. Don't just think that no news is good news, because oftentimes people will voice their opinions on Google about your organization. We had one not long ago, well, several years ago, in which apparently we don't do really good at making breakfast tacos. And unfortunately, we don't make breakfast tacos for the public, but we were related to a restaurant at some point in time that was, and apparently this individual did not like the breakfast tacos. So make sure that you're addressing those comments on whether it's Google or Facebook, especially if it is a comment that is detrimental to the organization. All right, second commandment, I'm going to call it document, and document, document, document. We've all had firefighters that have done things they shouldn't have done. We've all seen where firefighters will play games and do some things that are not within our SOGs. And we need to make sure those are well documented so that if and when it ever comes up again, we have a paper trail of things. Not only are we having to document incident reports, records management systems that are sitting there collecting data for our fire responses or medical responses, but we also need to make sure we're collecting data when it comes to kudos being received and when it comes to disciplinary action needed to take place. And do you have the skill set? Sometimes firefighters didn't take basic computer training, and ranking officer didn't take basic computer training to be able to work an Excel spreadsheet or fill out a disciplinary form. And sometimes that basic training has to take place in order for us to properly document things so that we don't get in trouble later on. So are we documenting those unsafe practices at the fire station? Are we documenting disciplinary actions that take place because somebody said something that they took offense to? Are we documenting verbal warnings that are given to firefighters? We instituted what's called a NOTA disciplinary action. It's called a notice of disciplinary action. NOTA notice is what we call it. And so each time that somebody does something they shouldn't do and they get written up for it, a simple notice like this goes out. Doesn't give a firefighter's name, but as you know, in the firehouse, word gets around or people can generally figure it out who got in trouble for what. And what we do with this is that we identify a situation to cut down on rumor mill, and we identify what SOGs or policies were broken, along with identifying what steps were taken in order to bring corrective action to this particular action. We specifically pull out items within our SOGs or procedures so that people know what areas were broken. This has gone a long way. We typically do this within 1 to 2 weeks afterwards of a disciplinary action taking place. We try and do it as fast as possible so that the rumor mill doesn't go astray too far. But these have gone a long way to identify not only what has gone wrong, but also the corrective action that was taking place. Because we want to squash some of those rumor mills. And do you have a disciplinary write-up form that you use? We call it notice of unacceptable performance or disciplinary action. That it's a standard form that we use for every time we have to write somebody up for doing something that they shouldn't have done. And then internally within your organization, do you have a rule that is how many strikes they're allowed before we have got to part ways? And unfortunately, as a chief officer, that is something we never like to do. However, sometimes we have to do it because otherwise we're spinning our wheels, wasting our time on someone unwilling to change and unwilling to abide by laws and regulations to keep other firefighters safe. So unfortunately, it is what it is, right? It's one of our duties as a chief officer that we have to do this. Now, I don't know about you, but if you've ever been sued, documentation comes in handy and will come in handy when you go through a lawsuit. I've had the unfortunate pleasure of experience, more like it, not pleasure, of being sued 3 times now within my organization as a fire chief and as an executive director. And I can tell you it's no fun at all. As my lawyer says, I've got them on speed dial. Anybody with $300 can go file a lawsuit, but it's never fun on the receiving end to be served, especially right before a holiday. So you're like, oh my gosh, Chris, there's a recording device. We can use our phone or we can use a mini recorder to record conversations that are taking place, especially when it comes to disciplinary action. And are you doing this now? We're dealing with iChiefs here, so many of you are from many different states. You check with your local state laws as far as how you can go about recording it. Some states allow for you, only the person recording is the only one that has to know that the recording has taken place, whereas in other states, you have to make sure the individual in the room with you knows that there is a recording going on of your conversation. Make sure that afterwards you're transcribing your notes from your conversation with that individual so that it is properly documented, especially if it's going to end up turning into a progressive discipline. And you never know that, right? We never know if our simple little talk about, hey, look, you didn't show up to work on time is going to turn into a problem later on down the road. And if we don't document, we're going to never realize that there's a problem and a consistent problem going on. So make sure you document. We're going to get off that subject here in a second, but bear with me as we continue to finish this up. When you do interview panels, do you have a form that everybody on an interview panel is using to interview that firefighter? Are they, using a scoring sheet to score that firefighter or that potential firefighter? Are they documenting things about that potential candidate that maybe we need to follow up on? Do you have standardized testing when it comes to physical agility, whether it is within your organization, regionally based, and then an ongoing physical agility test that you're rolling out to your firefighters? Making sure that we have forms in place that we can all be consistent with those interviews goes a long way. Next, you may not think that cameras in a fire station are legal, but they are, as long as you're putting them in public places, i.e. a break room, a training room, classroom. And how many times has those cameras come in handy? We had a firefighter at one point in time file a complaint that someone broke into his locker and stuck a lollipop in his locker, and he said it was harassment. And so at that point in time, not only will no one confess to breaking into his locker and putting a lollipop in there, but we decided that, okay, we'll put cameras in the hallways so that we can see who's going into what dorm rooms and be able to catch the perpetrator if one comes out later on. Even as ridiculous as it sounds, these cameras have gone a long way to help with investigations when it comes to harassment or things that have taken place within the organization that shouldn't have. So make sure that you have rules in place regarding those cameras. You can buy security cameras fairly cheap and make sure that your staff know that they're in place. And it is caught down. We haven't had any more lollipop incidents, so hopefully the jokers are gone and done. But then, oftentimes those cameras have come in handy. So, for example, in the picture on the left, you see where there's a firefighter pulling a chair down back to the station. Well, the firefighters decided at one point in time that they were going to take our rolling office chairs up to the top of the hill driveway and have races rolling down the driveway. Unsafe, right? That's all we need is a workers' comp claim from someone falling off an office chair, rolling down the driveway at a fast pace. And so we've caught this on camera. Or you could have bizarre incidents like this one in the right-hand picture where we had this tender sitting out there, the firefighters were doing their truck checks, and all of a sudden you see where all dump chutes, you can't see the right side dump chute, but all dump chutes self-deployed. And so we were able to capture that on video, send it to the manufacturer saying, hey, look, there's nobody operating the dump chutes, but this happened. And that has come in handy to be able to figure that out. So sometimes the cameras go a long way to help us out with weird stuff too, rather than just disciplinary procedures. So commandment number 3, think and plan ahead. So many times we are stuck in the ruts of just doing what we can to survive, right? But we don't plan for the future. We don't plan for our community growing, major developments, new developments. Maybe we need an aerial or a tiller at some point in time. Maybe we need a capital improvement project or capital improvement budget so that we can plan for the replacement of an apparatus. Think about these things and make sure they're included in your annual budget. If they're not in the budget or they're not in some type of strategic plan, you're going to be behind the times when it comes time to replacing an apparatus. Things such as SCBAs that are costly, or radios now these days. You've got to be able to plan ahead and budget for these things ahead. They're just nothing cheap in the fire service, as we all know. And we've got to be able to plan ahead for that. Kind of rolls right into our next bullet point is budgeting. Budgeting for not only our people, but budgeting for things. If we know that we've got a new development on the west side of our property coming in place in 5 to 10 years, we've got to start thinking about, can we respond in a timely manner to the west side of our property, or do we need to plan for a station on the west side of our district? So are we budgeting for not only the people that will go in that new fire station, but are we also budgeting for the incentives that go along with budgeting for people? Are we budgeting for annual physicals, 1582 physicals? Are we budgeting for a nutritionist to come in and talk to our firefighters about healthy lifestyles? Budgeting for incentives for our firefighters, whether it's a volunteer or a paid member, goes a long way, because we want our firefighters happy. We want them to stay within our organization, and we want to keep them there a long time. Are we budgeting and planning ahead for pay raises? If you're in a paid fire service, you all know it's the firefighters talk with the other fire departments, and it's always about, well, this fire department just got a pay raise, or that fire department just got a pay raise. When are we going to get one, right? And so if we are not planning for that as commanding officers, we're doing ourselves injustice, because our firefighters are then going to turn on us when they're not getting pay raises, and when the money is there to give them those pay raises. So when it comes to fire stations, we've got to think about not only the construction of the fire station and all materials, but the little things, right? You know, the extractors, the washer dryers, the refrigerators. And then it seems like at about the 10-year mark, everything starts to break. So are we budgeting for replacement of that equipment, whether it's a stove or refrigerator or washer and dryer? And then sometimes we've got to think about, you know, if we just don't have the budget for that type of stuff, maybe we look at a joint venture with another local fire department to share the cost of an extractor or share the cost of a cascade system. You know, are we doing those type of things? Are we increasing our pay for COLA, cost and living allowances, when it comes to pay for our firefighters? So be thinking about those things when it comes to budgeting in that time of year. Again, extrication equipment. You know, we just recently bought and replaced our extrication equipment. We've spent $37,000 on new cutters and spreaders, and it was not cheap. And so how often are we budgeting for those large dollar amount equipment, and are we thinking ahead to budget for that so it's not a surprise? When it comes to staff, when it comes to your volunteers, when it comes to your staff within your organization, are you budgeting for and are you planning for routine criminal and driving record checks? How about the physicals? Are you allowing a probationary period in which you get these physicals and criminal and background checks and driving record checks done? So those things cost money, as you all know. Nothing is cheap. So this next slide here, I want to call it getting rid of bad apples, commandment number 5. I know you probably all have an individual within your organization that you just want to get rid of, that is just bringing down the morale of the organization, that is bringing down the cohesiveness, that is bringing down the attitudes of others. I'm going to say stop the cancer before it spreads, right? It's hard, but if you have members of your organization that are bringing down the morale, that are causing rumors and gossip that are untrue, you need to make sure that we're dealing with those individuals in a proper manner. Don't be afraid to fire a volunteer firefighter, especially. I had a captain in our organization many years ago that was the most active guy in our organization, but he had a problem dreaming up stories and gossip that had no use or relevance to the organization. And he ended up bringing down the morale of folks. So I ultimately had to fire that captain and say, hey, we need to part ways, because he is doing no good for the organization. But do you have the mechanisms in place in order to take care of those members? Do you have a membership handbook? Kind of like here, we call it a personnel handbook, and it applies to volunteers or paid staff. And make sure that it's updated on a regular basis. It's one thing to have a membership or a personnel handbook, but if you're not updating it, if not reviewing it, you're doing no good. How about a code of conduct? I can tell you as a chief commanding officer, when somebody messes up in the organization, that code of conduct within that handbook is primary key when it comes to a disciplinary action. It's kind of like the cardinal rules of your organization. Similar to somebody lying, that is in there. You know, firefighter lying or covering for somebody else, that is in the code of conduct. You don't lie to your commanding officers or lie to your staff. Do you define active member status? So many of us like to pad our rosters with people. Yeah, we've got 60 members. Oh yeah, well, how many are really active? Well, 12. So the 60 members are doing what? They're taking up gear. They're taking up space on your roster. Frankly, you're going to have to report that to your workers' comp insurance carriers because you're having to pay for those individuals. So if they're not active within your organization and you haven't defined that active member status, you need to do that within that personnel handbook. All right. Okay, commandment number 6, and we're doing good on time, so bear with us. Motivate. You know, as a chief leader, we have to make sure that our firefighters stay motivated to do their job. We've got to encourage those firefighters to continue on to get help if they need to get help due to some bad things they have seen or are going through. We have to encourage those members to not only do their continuing education, but also to strive for and achieve certifications within the organization and within the state that will help them with their career path. Are we promoting a stay healthy environment within your organization? Are we, you know, bringing in a nutritionist if need be to help those firefighters out with losing weight or eating right? When we bring on new members, do we explain the benefits of being a member of your organization? In Texas, we have the luxury of if you become a volunteer firefighter or a paid firefighter and become certified, you have the ability to get those individuals to become a college degree for free. So don't ever hesitate to use those resources from the state or state associations to help out. And do you have a career ladder for those new members in the organization? So that goes a long way to help your firefighters stay motivated and help with their overall goals with being a member of your organization. Commandment number 7, communicate, communicate, communicate. I can't stress that enough. You've got to be able to talk to your superiors. You got to be able to talk to your subordinates. And sometimes it might be overwhelming, you know, whether it is a all staff meeting, whether it is text, emails, all staff meetings, whatever it might be. Communicate with your members and make sure they know what is going on within the organization. My lawyer recently said that, hey, look, it's okay to have an open door policy for allowing firefighters to come in and talk to them, but make sure your firefighters understand that there is a chain of command policy, that if they have something regarding a disciplinary issue or something that is needed to go up the food chain, so to speak, they're going through the officer and they're going up to their captain, they're going up to the battalion chief to get their needs met or their wants heard. So communication goes a long way. Commandment number 8, learn and train. I said it earlier, don't ever stop learning. You know, we've got to make sure that our learning goes a long way to help decrease the amount of risk to our organization, which ultimately decreases the number of injuries to our firefighters. So, you know, more training equals decreased risk equals decreased injuries. And we want to see that. We don't want our firefighters hurt. Do you have your own roadmap? You know, you might put a roadmap and a career map out for your firefighters, but do you have one? As I said earlier, it was kind of my goal this year to finish up my associate's degree in fire technology, and I got that done. Frankly, my next step is I'm going to go back to school, so to speak, to learn Spanish and hopefully become fluent in Spanish. But do you have your own roadmap? Where is it you want to go with your career? If you're a volunteer firefighter or volunteer commanding officer or even a paid, what's your next step? Are you training your officers? Are you training your people to be your replacements? We don't want to ever get hit by the bus out there. We want to do what's possible to make sure that our second in command and third in command know what's going on within the chief's role, so that if something happens to us, God forbid, somebody is there to take over. In the essence of time, I'm going to speed it up a little bit here. Luckily, we're getting close because there's only 10 commandments, if you remember. Change for the better. So many times we see folks in departments that don't like change. We've got to take advantage of new technologies. We've got to implement new SOGs, whatever it might be, so that we can be a better organization to our communities. Sometimes that might be, implementing an SOG for armored vests for our firefighters, or it might be, hey, we need mobile data computers in all of our apparatus so that we can be in an auto-aid system. And oftentimes those things cost money, and the ongoing service costs money. So don't ever forget that change is good. Don't think that change is bad all the time. Sometimes we have to be receptive to change. We can try things on a trial basis, i.e., we went to a 48, 96-hour shift schedule here, and we decided to try it out for 6 months. And after the end of 6 months, we evaluated it to make sure that this was what we wanted to do and everybody enjoyed it. And then once we got through that trial basis, we adopted it and we fully implemented it. Sometimes we have to make sacrifices, right? We might have some folks within our organization that are old school and very old school, and they don't like change. But oftentimes we have to somewhat give up our sacrifices for adopting to change. And, we might have to change in order to make things better. So, you have to swallow your pride sometimes. It's not about, driving the red fire apparatus all the time. It's about Mr. and Mrs. Smith and making sure they get the best service possible from your organization. Commandment number 10, maximize resources. Sometimes we are stretched for our budget these days, and we have to have the ability to maximize our resources. Whether it's personnel or apparatus or fire stations, we have to be creative with maximizing our resources. Are we adopting a junior firefighter program to bring in the next wave of firefighters? Are we implementing an auto aid program to join others within the county? Or in our case here, a picture of multi-county auto aid program. You see here 2 counties that have joined together with an auto aid system. And it is not about the patch anymore. It's not about the decal on the side of our trucks. It is making sure Mr. and Mrs. Smith get the closest and fastest unit response, regardless of what patch we have. And as you can see, the city of Austin has all types of little fingers that come out into these emergency service districts. And we're sometimes closer and faster than its own city of Austin in our particular case. So don't let those territorial jurisdictions keep you from doing what's best for your members and your budget, but also for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Again, maximizing resources. Maybe it is a regional grant. So many times fire departments have given up on SAFER or AFG grants because they just don't have the numbers to get past the computer grading. But if you were to join together as a county or a region and apply as such, you have far greater chances of pooling your resources together, pulling all of your numbers together to get those possible grants that are coming out now and in the future. Take the lead, be the organization that takes the lead so that you can apply for those grants, but also be the recipient of it. And you're going to look really good if you get a huge multi-million-dollar grant for like a regional radio system. So let's sum it up. Being a chief officer is a tough job. I recently went to a leadership class in which a former retired general was speaking, and he said, it's like this. Look, it's like you're at the top of a flagpole here, like seen in this picture. You're at the top, firefighters are down below, and oftentimes you become the target of whatever it might be, whether it's, hey, we need pay raises, or, hey, we're out to get you because you're not a good leader and we need a replacement. So sometimes it's very lonely being up at the top of that flagpole. But everyone looks up to you, right? We're looking up to those flags and to those leaders to guide us in the right direction. And it frankly will take a toll on you. If you do not have options to do something fun outside of the fire service, I suggest you go get some hobbies, because this job is stressful. And for those new leaders in the organization, wherever you're at, this can take a toll on you. It has resulted in numerous divorces across the country, but you've got to be strong. You've got to have good ethical values. You've got to make sure your family is taken care of and your wife or your spouse is taken care of. Don't be afraid to be that leader and take charge of what's next. We know you'll do the right thing, and myself, Chief Buckman, and many others out there are there to help support you. And I'm going to give you one plus commandment here, and that's called the 10th commandment plus. And that is take time for yourself. Being the chief in the organization is a lot of weight on your shoulders, and it's a huge amount of weight, because you can be called at any point in time, day or night, to deal with a situation you don't want to deal with. Don't be the victim of stress. You know, you work out too. Just like my firefighters work out in the evening, I'll go work out with them and join them as well, just to make sure that stress is taken off. There's no doubt we'll never get away from the stress, but we got to do things to lessen and decrease that stress. Don't let that job wear you down, or our job wear you down. It's challenging, right? But through leadership classes and network opportunities, make sure you're talking to your fellow fire chiefs and fellow commanding officers on a regular basis. I love it when I am able to do lunch with not only my staff, but my commanding officer on an individual basis to get what's really going on, or get their feelings about what's going on in their lives, so that I can make sure to take care of them if need be. I'm going to leave you with this as we wrap up here. And it is a video here in a minute that I have found to be somewhat inspirational. I think you'll recognize the name here in a minute when we play it. And it's a volunteer firefighter out of the Northeast, but he instills leadership lessons in what we do as an organization.
Back in New York, I am the head of development for a nonprofit called Robin Hood. When I'm not fighting poverty, I'm fighting fires as the assistant captain of a volunteer fire company. Now, in our town, where the volunteers supplement a highly skilled career staff, you have to get to the fire scene pretty early to get in on any action. I remember my first fire. I was the second volunteer on the scene, so there was a pretty good chance I was going to get in. But still, it was a real foot race against the other volunteers to get to the captain in charge to find out what our assignments would be. When I found the captain, he was having a very engaging conversation with the homeowner, who was surely having one of the worst days of her life. Here it was, the middle of the night. She was standing outside in the pouring rain, under an umbrella, in her pajamas, barefoot, while her house was in flames. The other volunteer, who had arrived just before me, let's call him Lex Luthor, got to the captain first and was asked to go inside and save the homeowner's dog. The dog! Oh, I was stunned with jealousy. Here was some lawyer or money manager who for the rest of his life gets to tell people that he went into a burning building to save a living creature, just because he beat me by 5 seconds. Well, I was next. The captain weighed me over. Said, Bezos, I need you to go into the house. I need you to go upstairs, past the fire, and I need you to get this woman a pair of shoes. I swear. So, not exactly what I was hoping for, but off I went. Up the stairs, down the hall, past the real firefighters, who were pretty much done putting out the fire at this point, into the master bedroom to get a pair of shoes. Now, I know what you're thinking, but I'm no hero. I carried my payload back downstairs, where I met my nemesis and the precious dog by the front door. We took our treasures outside to the homeowner, where, not surprisingly, his received much more attention than did mine. A few weeks later, the department received a letter from the homeowner thanking us for the valiant effort displayed in saving her home. The act of kindness she noted above all others, someone had even gotten her a pair of shoes. You know, in both my vocation at Robin Hood and my avocation as a volunteer firefighter, I am witness to acts of generosity and kindness on a monumental scale. But I'm also witness to acts of grace and courage on an individual basis. And you know what I've learned? They all matter. So as I look around this room at people who either have achieved or are on their way to achieving remarkable levels of success, I would offer this reminder: don't wait. Don't wait till you make your first million to make a difference in somebody's life. If you have something to give it now. Serve food at a soup kitchen, clean up a neighborhood park, be a mentor. Not every day is going to offer us a chance to save somebody's life, but every day offers us an opportunity to affect one. So get in the game. Save the shoes. Thank you.
Come back.
Thank you.
So I encourage you to make a difference, right? Those little things, such as just picking up a pair of shoes, makes a difference. And as a commanding officer and a chief officer, those little things can make a difference. Even if it's a simple phone call back to Mr. and Mrs. Smith to see how they're doing after their young son just got back from a car wreck, or maybe someone that didn't do such a good job and you're following up to make sure that their needs are met. So make a difference in your community, make a difference in your fire department, and I wish you success. I think we might have a few minutes for some questions possibly, and I hope you enjoyed it. Don't see anything in the Q&A.
All right, there we go.
There we go.
Got my camera back on. Wow, Chris, thank you very much. For those of you that are in attendance, I hope you will fill out the survey, but also if you want to send Chris a note in the chat section, he'll be able to see those as well. But what a way to finish the presentation with little things make a difference. That is so important for leaders. It's not always the big public things. It's making that phone call. It's sending them a card. It's the little things that make a difference. So, Chris, thank you very much for a great presentation. But, Chris, you didn't tell us the mystery. I won't ask you the manufacturer, but what made the dump chute open up on its own?
There was a faulty diode in the very back of the apparatus that apparently it was a new apparatus, and I guess the little diode, which was about yay big, went out. And mystery, it was a sequence of events that happened in order to make that little diode trip.
All about electronics, isn't it? We're controlled by electronics today, and I'm sure your guys probably still tell the story about that truck being the ghost truck. I'm surprised you haven't renamed that truck and put that on the bumper or something on the cab somewhere. So, but that was great. It's like I'm looking at that going, oh, come on, Chris, tell us what happened here. But thank you, Chris. I will tell you, we had people from Washington, Nevada, New Jersey, Maine, Tennessee. There was nobody here from Texas though, Chris. I don't know what that means.
I don't know.
I'm kidding. There are people here from Texas as well. But good presentation. Lots of people from all over the country. And then the last video, if you do not recognize the name Mark Bezos, you probably shouldn't recognize his brother's name. His brother's name is Jeff Bezos. And here we have the brother of Jeff Bezos is a volunteer firefighter in New York. And it's still a volunteer firefighter in New York. I just checked that out the other day because his brother wants to give away all his money. And I want some of that money for the volunteer and combination officer section to help out the volunteer fire service. So we're going to try to engage somebody and have a conversation about that. But I'm looking, Nan's looking also. I don't really see any questions popping up, which is not unusual. The webinar, the information about, let's see, let me back up one more so you can see where, Chris's email is there. I would hope that you got a chance, got a question, send it to Chris, and then he will answer you. If you don't, you got a question about the VCOS, you can use my email, jmbuckman3rd@gmail.com, and I will help you with the VCOS question. So again, Chris, thank you very much. So we're going to finish up here with a couple closing little slides here. The VCOS has lots of webinars being scheduled. You see them over there on the left, and we're scheduling more and more every day, working on getting them scheduled through the end of the year now. And look at the International Association of Fire Chiefs events over on the right there. So lots of opportunities for education. I do realize that it is expensive to attend conferences, but it's not expensive to attend webinars. And you all showed that tonight by having a good turnout of webinar attendees tonight as well. So you will get an email link that's going to show the recorded session. You can share that with other members on your department. If you like this webinar, but you say, oh, I could have done this at a training session. Yes, you could have a training session and have multiple people watching webinars. It's not just an individual thing. So please look at how you can do that for your department. And then there is a brief survey that we ask you to fill out. We want to know your feedback. We want to know what worked and what didn't work. So please let us know about your experience today. And finally, I think the next slide should say we are done. Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments. And Chris, I'll let you have the final words.
Well, thank you, Chief, and certainly always enjoy this particular class that I've done in several different areas. Hopefully we'll be in symposium next year doing it also. And sorry, I had to shorten it down with only being an hour long. We have to cut out some material, but I think hopefully all of you got the gist. You can certainly find some of those items in the handouts. Do good things for yourself and your organization. Take care of yourself. I wish you a happy holiday season and look forward to seeing you around. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.